Hello, everyone. So today I'm going to be talking about Gestalt theory, and this is by Connor Akers. All right, so first we have my outline that I created. It's going to go over who founded, where it was created, what need it filled, why it was created, when it came out, key concepts, what causes hurt, what promotes change, my activity, which is going to be meditation, which you'll find out more about later. And of course, there's going to be a handout that you guys will be able to look at as well. All right, so to start off, the founders of Gestalt therapy, and I put the S in parentheses, is because most sites you'll see Frederick Perls, and he was one of the main founders. But also, I wanted to bring notice to his wife, Laura Pearls, who also played a really big role in the founding of this theory. So, to talk a little bit more about them, I put some pictures up of them as well as someone they wrote a book with. So, the Pearls were originally from Germany, and they were both working as psychologists. They're both very, very well taught, and they ended up writing a book together. Fritz and Laura did. Fritz ended up writing another book with a man called Paul Goodman, and he is down here. And this is the book that's called Gestalt Therapy, which is the name of the theory. So it ended up getting created much later, but I did want to bring up Laura again because of her influence that she had on the theory. They ended up creating an institute in New York, and Laura was in charge of the institute. All right, so where was it created? So this is actually a little fun question for me because I found out that this theory had origins in a few different places, and so I thought I'd talk a little bit about what was happening in each country with each of them. So it started in Germany. The word Gestalt is German for the word whole, and they ended up having to flee Germany because of World War II, and both of the Pearls were Jewish, and so they fled the country to avoid, you know, lots of problems. South Africa. So they ended up fleeing to South Africa, Johannesburg, South Africa to be specific. And so they continued to develop their theory there. And I believe this is where Laura and Fritz wrote their first book together. And they continued to develop the theory. Then they ended up moving to New York City. And this is where he wrote his book with John Goodman, the Gestalt therapy book. And this is also where the original Gestalt Institute was created. All right, so what need did this fill? So there's actually a few different needs that this fills. The first one I wanted to bring up was our need for perception. So this is one of the key parts of the theory, seeing things from a different lens, becoming aware of individual components, creating a whole, find a need, meet a need. The second need that it fills is finding closure. So this therapy allows the client to receive closure that they need to receive. And the goal is to move beyond the past and enrich the present. And then finally, self-acknowledgement. So this is my personal favorite, is self-acknowledgement. It lets you look at yourself from an unbiased perspective and just note how you are feeling. And so I wrote this little quote, and I believe it's just by me, but I'm sure someone else has said it before. This is how I feel, and it's valid. All right, so what was going on in the world? I briefly mentioned it, but I did want to bring it up again, that this was 1930s, 1940s. It started during Nazi Germany and in the middle of World War II. So the reason that he wanted to do it was because he was unsatisfied with Freud, which I've noticed is a common theme amongst the different theorists, but he was originally taught psychoanalytic theory and he was just not happy with some of the finer points that were brought up with Freud's theory. And so he ended up making his own theory. And then the final thing that was going on was expressionism. So this is like a type of art. It's where you can like express your feelings through art and creativity. So this was a really big thing that was going on, and this is what influenced a lot of the theory. So I thought I would bring that up as well. All right, so we have our key concepts. So the first concept is whole, which is, again, Gestalt is the literal word for whole in German. So I thought this was definitely one of the most important key concepts. So it's saying that elements are seen in groups. The whole is different from the sum of its parts. And this is a quote that you'll see quite often with Gestalt therapy. People tend to look at things from a point of view where you can see everything as a group of things and not its individual components. So, for example, you could see a person that, is an artist, and you'll see them as an artist, but you aren't looking at the different parts of them. Like, okay, this person had a rough past. This person, has a wife and 2 dogs. You don't always think about the whole whenever you're thinking of historical figures. And the same could be said whenever you're thinking of a bicycle. You aren't looking at each individual wheel and each pedal. You're looking at the whole and you're calling it a bike. So the second one is dialogue, an exchange between two people. The therapeutic relationship is very important with this theory. It allows you to have a back and forth, and they want it to be very conversationally based. Awareness, this is another really big one. How can we enhance our awareness? How can we be more present, be more in the present? So this is something that has a lot to do with this theory, as how can I become more aware of what I'm doing and what I'm feeling? And then finally, experiment. Tackling challenges in present through role play, empty chair method, assigning homework, and more. I'll definitely get into all of these a little bit further. And so I just wanted to bring up these 4. So here it is again, and this is kind of with the example I was talking about earlier. The unified whole is different from the sum of its parts. So here you see a drawing of a bike on the right, but over here is all of the different parts that make up this drawing. So instead of looking at this from this perspective where you see 2 circles and 2 slashes, we're seeing the entire thing in its whole. All right, so now I'm going to talk about the 6 laws of perception. So this is something that has a lot to do with learning more about perceiving things and how we look at things. So whenever talking about good form is the one where you see all of the different circles. And while we see it as circles interlooping with one another, Gestalt would say that its individual parts are different because the way it's drawn, you'll see that there's a cutoff here. And so we aren't looking at this and only seeing the different cutoffs. So this, for example, isn't just one. This isn't just one thing. This is multiple things that make a whole. Proximity. So here we see a group of things that are all combined, and then here we see 3 things that are in its own separate groups. And the reason we see that is because of the distance that is between each of these individual pieces. And so this is talking about that kind of perception where we see things in group based on how far away they are from one another. Similarity. So similarity is where we see things based off of how similar they are. So all of the black circles are interconnected and all of the white circles are interconnected. And this is something that we tend to group things in. If we see something that looks similar to one another, we're going to tend to group that together versus things that look different from one another. Closure. So this is the one where we talk about like scene shapes. So the best way to explain this, son, is by this picture. So you'll see that while each of this is a different like line, our brains tend to look at things as, okay, this is a square, this is a circle, and this is a triangle. We aren't seeing just these individual lines. We can see the whole shape. Common region is another one. So like this is like different regions that are like all interconnected. So anything that's in the blue box, we are grouping as its own individual component rather than looking at it all as one thing. And so continuity. So it's saying that whenever we look at this shape right here, we perceive it as this. We see it as two lines that are crossing paths. We don't necessarily see it as this, the 2 points meeting, and it's its own separate thing. And so that's another way that we tend to perceive things. So you might be asking, Connor, why is perception important? Well, our brains are trained to look at things from certain perspectives, but what if we trained our brains to look at things from another point of view? Especially whenever we're trained to be self-critical, whenever looking at yourself from a new perspective, it can change the way you view yourself, increasing your self-esteem while also looking at the world and the events that happen to us in a new and more positive way. So now I'm going to talk more about like the techniques that are used in this type of therapy. So the first one is role play in an empty chair. So this is an exercise that the client is sitting in one chair and then they're looking at an empty chair, and they pretend that there's a person sitting in the chair, or there's a feeling that they've been fighting, or maybe it's just another version of themselves. Maybe there's a happy version of them and an angry version of them. So then you would say the things that you would want to say to that person or that feeling if they were sitting right in front of you. And this technique has been known to be very, very effective. And so I wanted to bring special light to it because whenever you think of Gestalt therapy, this is typically the first technique that you would think of. Another version of techniques that he used is asking questions. Examples of this would look like, well, if your client's making a sad face, you would ask them about their reaction. If their posture changed, you can ask them about that. Noticing this helps the client become more aware of their own like reactions, their own feelings. And like by doing this, we can allow the client to start to notice these things outside of the therapy room. They can start to notice, okay, this is how I'm feeling. And he really believed that awareness was a great way to help deal with our problems. And so finally, creativity. So this is where expressionism really comes into play. He could ask the client to draw something around them or to express how they're feeling. This is supposed to help pull them into the present. And so this is something that I feel like is really unique in Gestalt, where he wants us to do things in the present to bring our past in a more constructible way. He believed that the past isn't changeable and that if we want to solve problems that are bothering us from our past, the best way to do that is to bring it in the present so it is fixable. And then we have, why do I feel this way? What is this theory's understanding of why people are hurting, why people are suffering? And well, I wanted to put this little quote right here. You are enough. Don't forget that, because that's exactly how he perceived things. So why are people hurting and suffering? Well, according to Gestalt theory, unfinished business. Has there ever been a time you didn't let yourself feel an emotion, or you didn't take time to grieve losing a loved one? Not communicating annoyances that are building up. I'm sure we've all been there. I'm sure we've all held things back, or just didn't fully express what we were feeling in that moment. He says that this unfinished business is causing a lot of pain in us, and that by not acknowledging those emotions or these frustrations that we might feel, it hurts us. So another one that he talks about is not taking responsibility. If we're not accountable for our actions, it's going to end up hurting us. A lack of awareness. We've spent a lot of time talking about how to become more aware. This is why a lack of awareness, according to Pearls, is hurting us. It's causing us to suffer. And so by building on this awareness, it can help ease our pain. It can help make us feel better. And then the last thing that I wrote was being trapped in the past. He wants us to live in the present. We can use past examples to influence the present, but not let it hold us back. And so that's what he's trying to avoid, is getting trapped in the past. All right, so how can we promote change? Well, in order to promote change, you need to love who you are and not who you wish you were. And I know this is something that can be hard for some people to hear, but Pearls truly believed that if you can't accept who you are, then you can't really effectively change. And so this isn't a theory where it's saying, oh, this will fix this problem immediately. It's saying the more we become aware of our problems, the less difficult they seem. The more we acknowledge our pain, the less it can hurt us. All right, so now I want to take some time to do an activity. So this is a meditation video, and so I wanted to play this video as a form of becoming more aware. So this is specifically a meditation designed to help us become more aware with our feelings and not judge them, just acknowledge them. And so I'm going to play this video and just take time to acknowledge everything around you. Don't really hesitate.
To begin this mindfulness meditation, just let yourself get into a comfortable position, whatever that looks like for you. When your body feels ready, you may gently close your eyes. With your eyes closed, take a moment to tune inwards. First, simply noticing your body, tuning into the weight of gravity, the points of contact between you and the surface on which you are resting. What else do you notice? What is it like for you to be in your body right now? As you observe this, you simply accept and allow whatever it is you notice, harboring no judgment, just being mindful, noticing what is with a sense of compassion in your heart and letting it be. Continue to do this now with your breath as well as your body. If you haven't already, begin to tune into the sensations of breathing. What do you notice? Just observe, accept, and allow. No judgment, just letting everything be how it is. As you stay mindful of your breath and your body, with a sense of compassion in your heart. Keeping your eyes closed, you allow your awareness to expand to include the space around your body. It's as if you can sense the air around you, the objects around you, and you just allow them to be as you simply are. There's nothing to do, there's nothing to judge. If your mind wanders, that's okay. Don't judge it. Just return your focus to what is. Being connected to your breath, your body, and your sense of presence in the world around you. You let everything simply be, including yourself. You now begin to let your attention travel back, becoming more and more aware of physical sensations by rolling your shoulders, wiggling your fingers and toes, still being mindful of what is, and taking this present moment awareness with you as you slowly begin to open your eyes back to the world around you. Wonderful job doing this practice. We hope you enjoy the rest of your beautiful day.
Alright, so I hope you guys were able to get a lot out of that video. I know that I definitely need it, and so honestly, the reason that I chose this as the activity is because I feel like this is exactly the kind of awareness that Gestalt was talking about. He was talking about becoming present, just becoming aware of what's going around you. And so I feel like that if there was any way to perfectly describe what this awareness would look like, that just doing this every day, and when things start to get overwhelming, and it'll be such a huge change in your life. So I did want to say thank you for watching this, and I do hope you guys were able to learn a little bit more about Gestalt theory. Here is my works cited page, and yeah, thanks again.